Do you work for a startup or scale up and you're trying to implement a change and nobody is changing? This is not uncommon. Hi, my name's Alysha Randall, and I am a fractional CFO and I train new and aspiring CFOs for startups and scale ups. And today I wanted to talk to you about change management. So in last week's video, which I'll link above and below, I talked about the process of working out what change you want to do using the Six Sigma DMAIC principles. And today I wanted to just focus on that change management place. So working out how to change a process or the processes that you want to implement sometimes is the easy part of change. And that is because change management, you're dealing with people and people can sometimes be unpredictable or not behave the way you want to, have their own goals, their own drivers, and therefore getting people to change their behavior is much more difficult than perhaps implementing a piece of software. So with change management, you really do need to think about it as a leader and you need to plan for this change. And depending on a few factors will depend on how long the change will take to implement. So if you work for a startup, you may find that most of the people you work with, they are so used to change, you're constantly pivoting, and therefore implementing a change is quite easy because everyone's up for it. It's the nature of it. However, if you work for a scale up that is a bit older, you have people that have been working for the business for a while, and or a corporation, then change management is much more difficult, particularly with people, not always, but in general, if they've been working for the company for a while, largely because they have been doing their processes and you are going to disrupt it. And depending on their personality, they may be up for that change and willing to take it on or not. And I generally find it depends on how confident people are within themselves. It doesn't matter even on age. So, you may think younger people are better at change and older people are not. I actually find that that is not the case. I find it to be the case of how confident they are in their role and their position. So if somebody is a bit unsure of themselves, not very confident, or they are a bit nervous about where their position is, they may be more reluctant to change. Not always, this is obviously a big generalization, but often. So the best way to start is very early and having that conversation. So instead of saying to people, oh, I'm going to make this change, this is what's going to be different. Instead, you start talking to them before you even know what that change is going to look like. There's a few reasons for that. The first one is you want them to come along with you on the ride. So you want them to be part of the solution, not just implementing the solution that you are telling them what to do. Even if you're just including them in the conversations, they will feel much more part of the team, and therefore rolling out the change, they are part of the team. They've come along with you with the ride. They understand the end goal and what the change entails, and therefore they're more likely to implement it. Another reason for having early conversations is because then you can understand what their goals and their motivators are. So if their operational goal is so let's keep this within finance. Let's say you've got a finance manager who is reluctant to change. And their goal is, for example, they want to, one of their targets is to get month end out within 5 days, for example. Maybe this particular process that you want to change will help them achieve that goal. So trying to align that change management, that process with their goals, and is a really benefit because then they can see the benefit of the change. You may even find that understanding people's motivations and goals at the early stage it may actually alter the end result. If you're thinking about the goals across the business, not just the strategic and operational goals at a high level, you may find that it's more, you may find that you're more likely to tick more boxes with this solution than just your own personal goals. So communication is one of the most important elements of change management. So not only is it having those conversations, but you are communicating the vision. You want to show how this kind of aligns with the goals, not just their goals, but the entire goal of the project. Why are you doing this? Is it just you're changing things to be a pain in the neck? Or are you changing things to make it better? So, and then it's also, talking about this at the early stage, you can also find out how ready is the business to take on this change. There may be a few roadblocks that need to be fixed before you can implement this change. So the next part is charting the process of the implementation. So it's taking through all of the steps that you need to do in order to implement the change. And I would definitely put in more time than you originally think, largely because you have to fit in with other people's calendars. If you need resources, you have to make sure that you get those resources. So it's another reason for communicating very early. And also when things go wrong, because they will, time to fix those things. So really charting it out with lots of buffers as to what everybody needs to do when. This should really be communicated again incredibly early, because if you're relying on somebody and they're about to go on holidays, you need to know about that. So ensuring that you really plan that out, but also it's very transparent by doing it this way. And also you have the time to address everyone's concerns. Again, they may have a deadline that you weren't aware of, and therefore what you're asking them to do doesn't align. Or potentially you've made an assumption of how things work within your business, and this is a way of finding out some additional nuances that you weren't aware of when you were first doing the analysis. The other part that you need to consider is any training or support. So this is particularly if you are implementing software, for example, you absolutely need to work out who needs training, how much training they need, how long that training is going to be, and ongoing support. Then once you've done all that communication and planning, then you can start implementing the change. So by then you should have a change management team. You should have notified all stakeholders, all people that are going to be implementing the change. Everybody knows what they're going to be doing, and everybody knows what the end result should look like and what the goals are. Once you have done that and everybody starts working on it, then obviously you need to monitor the progress of the change. So therefore you need to be like a project manager if you aren't already, but ultimately a finance leader generally does need some project management skills, because you are potentially implementing a lot of change, especially if you're working for that early stage startup and a scale up, because you need to move from a startup mindset into a scale up. So you'll be implementing much more processes, and therefore project management is a big part. And then obviously you're going to be addressing any challenges. So if there are any roadblocks, if things aren't moving along, if people are finding that there's areas that they don't understand, it's up to you to make sure that that gets resolved. And then making sure that you have that long-term success. You want to make sure that this particular change is working for people, and that potentially you may look at how you can continuously improve this new process. I would also recommend that you celebrate any success. So if it's been quite a big process, like putting in an ERP, which can take months, absolutely take the team and everyone that helped you out for dinner, or however you celebrate success within your business. recommend the people that worked with you within an all hands, put their hands up for awards or what have you. Definitely celebrate the success and give them a big pat on the back for really working hard and helping you implement that. So anyway, so the leadership skills you really have to tap into is that visionary thinking, that long-term change, communication. Absolutely. I mean, communication is probably the biggest thing with change management. Empathy and emotional intelligence, adaptability, decision making, and collaboration. So this is such a big leadership element of the finance leader role, and so therefore being really good at change management is really important. It doesn't matter if it's something small like you're changing your accounts payable process, but it could be as big as M&A. So you've just purchased a small company and you need to bring that whole company on board and merge everything together. That can take a couple of years. So it's really important to practice these things at the beginning of your career for small change management implementations, so that when you get to the big ones like M&A or an IPO, you can, you've kind of flexed those muscles and you know how to do that. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you found that useful with implementing change. I do have lots of further resources available to you on leadership. So we do workshops quite regularly and we talk about lots of different leadership skills. And I also have a leadership guide free for you to download. So I will link both of those below and you can check those out. If you like this video, please subscribe, like and subscribe. I hear my children say that all the time. And I will see you next week. Cheers.